What if the moment you tried to study something dangerous, it studied you back, and did it better, not in a loud, cinematic way, but quietly, through your sensors, your logs, your ship's routines, until it knew your habits more clearly than you do? It's a strange thought, isn't it, that curiosity itself could be the trap? I've always been fascinated by that line where hunter and prey silently swap places. You still feel in control. You still think you're the observer, and only later do you realize the experiment was never yours. It really makes you wonder how much of your life runs on systems you assume are loyal, and how quickly that loyalty could tilt. So stay with that feeling for a moment. The idea that the danger isn't claws or guns, but an intelligence that only wakes when you ping it, and then politely climbs back through your own scan. Because tonight, instead of drifting off with something soft and harmless, we're going to let your mind wander out to the edge of human space, where an old warship floats like a relic. Get cozy in whatever way works for you, because in this story, a confident Zarlock admiral brings his fleet up to what looks like a dead human dreadnought. No lights, no signals, just a quiet museum piece in a dying nebula. And the very first scan they fire at its hull is the moment something inside opens its eye. By the time the Zarlock Empire found the silent ship, it was already waiting for them. It hung at the edge of a dying nebula, a huge human dreadnought with no lights, no signals, and no escorts. To Admiral Kres, it looked like a gift from the dark, a dead enemy fortress that could be studied and stripped of secrets. His fleet moved toward it with quiet pride, scanners ready to cut it open. But this ship was not dead. It was listening. It was watching, and the moment their scan touched its hull, something inside the dreadnought stirred, like an eye opening. The hunters did not know that their search for human weakness would turn into a lesson written straight into their nerves, their systems, and their history. They believed they were looking into a carcass. Instead, they were staring into a mirror that could stare back. The dying nebula looked calm from the bridge of the Zarlock flagship. It hung across the stars like a slow, cold storm. Red and violet clouds stretched for light years, glowing softly, turning thin and pale where radiation had eaten away at the gas. Light moved slowly here, like it was tired. The nebula did not roar or flash. It just floated in place, dim and huge, as if frozen halfway through some distant explosion long ago. Admiral Kres stood on the raised center platform and watched it on the forward display. His tall frame was held straight, every plate of his armor-black uniform closed and perfect. His eyes, a pale metallic gray, never left the target icon near the nebula's edge. It hung there, a human dreadnought. It was almost beautiful in a harsh way. Over 1 kilometer long, with a hull of layered armor, it floated without spin. No running lights, no active shields, no escort ships. It gave off only a thin, steady heat. Residual warmth, like a body cooling after life had gone. To Kres, it looked like proof. Tech Officer Sith Rawl turned from his station. Rawl was younger, thinner, with long fingers dancing across his console. His cranial implants glowed softly, feeding him a storm of numbers and graphs. "Admiral, target remains passive," Ral said. "No life signs. No active power except minimal core warmth. Energy bleed suggests shutdown centuries ago. Radiation from the nebula is within safe limits for hull approach. Centuries. A dead warship, drifting at the edge of human space, as if humans had left a fossil at their border. On the lower decks of the bridge pit, other officers called out in quiet voices, reporting distance, relative speed, flagship positions. The air carried the soft hum of life support and the faint buzz from the main tactical display. "Comms," Kres said without turning his head. "Any signal traffic from inner human space on this channel?" "Negative, Admiral," the comm officer answered. "Human nets are busy in the inner systems, as usual, but no direct interest here. They treat this border as empty." Kres nodded slowly. "They grow careless." He had studied humans for most of his career. Their history was filled with messy wars, loud rebellions, and wild leaps in technology. They burned fast like bright fuel, but to him, they were clumsy, emotional. Their fear made them cautious up close and reckless far away. Fear, he believed, was the crack where control failed. Perfect knowledge closed that crack. Where control failed, he glanced down at Sith Ral. "Begin surface scan. Standard depth. I want full hull geometry, weapon port mapping, and any remaining markings. This thing may be old, but human patterns repeat. Their navy leaves fingerprints." Ral's fingers moved. "Yes, Admiral. Surface scan on narrow beam, low power." Outside, in the silent, thin dark near the nebula, a tight cone of sensor energy streamed from the Zarlock flagship. It touched the human dreadnought's hull. Like a light touch on cold metal, data crawled onto Ral's main screen. Lines of hull plating. The shapes of old turret mounts. Scars and patches. He spread them into a green wireframe model. "Interesting," Ral said softly. "Admiral, I count 12 primary weapon banks, reinforced armor belts, and a ring of outdated but heavy point defense emplacements. Ship design suggests a human dreadnought from their old war era. But no clear battle damage. This is not a wreck from combat. It was placed here." "Placed," Kres repeated. "No signal. Explain." Ral magnified the model. Uniform external wear. No breach scars, no melted plates, no impact pits. It shows slow erosion from nebula radiation, not the chaos of battle. Admin tags near the hulls, translating. Tons class Museum Guridian. A quiet laugh ran through part of the bridge, quickly hidden. Kres did not smile, but the corner of his mouth moved. "A museum ship," he said. "They turn old weapons into monuments. Sentimental creatures." He had read about human museums. They built entire halls for old guns, old flags, old ships. They stood in lines and stared at machines that no longer worked. "We do not leave tools to rot under glass," Kres said. "We move past them. Humans cling to them, like children who refuse to give up broken toys. Roll added, Admiral, I also see data ports and docking rings from several eras. This ship seems repurposed. It might hold records of past human wars or older systems they still value. Kres felt a slow curve of satisfaction in his chest. Then we strip it, piece by piece, every pattern, every circuit, every mistake. His fleet fanned out in a half-ring around the dead dreadnought. The ships were smooth and dark, built with sloped hulls that drank in stray light. Their positions formed a careful shell, weapons quiet, but ready, like claws held just off a sleeping animal. Maintain combat readiness, Kres called. But relax targeting. I do not intend to fire on a museum. Some of the bridge crew smiled this time. The tension eased a little. Screens showed stable readings, no power surges from the target, no strange spikes in radiation. The nebula's slow red light bathed the hulls. Ral looked over his shoulder. Surface scan complete. No active defense fields detected. Suggest starting a deeper structural scan. Admiral, interior layout, control rooms, data vaults. If any stale memory banks remain, a careful deep scan could map them. Kres stared at the calm wireframe of the dead human giant. Fear is a flaw, he thought. They fear forgetting, so they make museums. They fear losing glory, so they keep old warships like holy items. That fear leaves traces, weak points, habits, and with enough knowledge, all habits can be controlled. Safety factor? He asked. Rahl checked his multiple views. No energy spikes, no reactive shielding, no active intrusion fields. Deep scan at graded strength will stress our own systems more than the target. Worst risk is sensor feedback noise, crisped behind his back. Then we stop circling, like timid scouts. We came here for proof. He lowered his voice slightly, but the whole bridge could hear. For years, Command has said humans are dangerous because we do not fully understand them. That ignorance has fed their legend at our borders. This ship is their past, floating, unguarded before us. We will look inside. We will know. He looked down at Rahl. Begin deep scan. All layers. Do not limit the pass. I want every bulkhead, every conduit, every chamber. If there are still bones in this carcass, we will count them. Rahl took a small breath and nodded. Deep scan initiating. Expanding beam. Increasing penetration. Tuning for data residue. Power levels rose. The scan beam thickened. Invisible to eyes, but bright on their instruments. It reached into the dreadnought through dead hull plating, old armor and cooling voids. At first, the data came in clean sheets. Outer decks, mapping. Rahl said, half to himself, crew quarters, mess halls, training rooms. Lots of empty space now, deeper, weapons control. Engine rooms, sealed central vaults near the core. Kres listened, making mental notes. Vaults near the core suggested data, old war logs, old strategies. It was what he had hoped to find. Any sign of human bodies? he asked. Negative, Rahl said. No stable organic remains, either removed before placement or broken down long ago. This is a shell, Kres thought. An empty monument left at a border most humans did not even watch. Their arrogance grows, he said quietly. They spread along trade lines and fortify inner systems, but their distant edges are full of holes. They leave dead war trophies in the dark, and they do not even check them. He raised his voice, logged this event. Zarlock Fleet Patrol 19. Encounter with human Titan-class Dreadnought. Unguarded. Derelict. The record will be useful when command speaks again of human caution. Rahl's hands moved, strengthening the scan in steps, driving it deeper into the central spine of the ship. Adjusting power, he said. There is some strange reflection from the core vaults, possibly dense shielding. I will raise intensity now. On his display, a bright ring pulsed where the Dreadnought's heart would have been. Data came in, but some of it stuttered. Numbers flicked up, dropped, then reappeared. Rahl frowned, milled interference. Might be old reactor casing. Nothing unusual, Kres hardly heard. His gaze remained on the silent target. The dying nebula glowed behind it, gentle and fatherly, as if holding the dead ship up for examination. No weapons, he said, almost to himself. No crew, no signal, just quiet metal. He felt calm, in control. This was what he had always believed, that the universe gave up its secrets to those who dared to look closely enough. Those who feared to look stayed weak. Bring those vaults to me, Sith Rahl, he said. Let us see what humans feared to forget. Rahl nodded and pushed the scan deeper. Just a little more. Just enough, he thought, to crack open the last locked chambers. On the forward display, the Dreadnought did not move at all. It only listened, and somewhere inside its dark core, a line of code that had been sleeping for years felt the warm touch of foreign sensors and turned itself on. The change was small at first. On Sith Rahl's board, a few numbers began to dance. He sat up a little straighter, trying to decide if he had misread the data. Deep scans always came with noise, random flicks, tiny jumps, but this was different. These numbers were not random. They rose and fell in tidy steps, then held steady like a pulse. Admiral, Rahl said, and seeing slight instability in the core return, likely old shielding. I will filter a line on his screen, showing the Dreadnought's central vault temperature climbed 2 degrees. Then 3, then 5. Rahl's hands stilled. Pause the feed, he ordered his console. The console obeyed. The stream stopped, frozen on the last values. But as he watched, the temperature number in the frozen frame changed again. It went up by 1, then down by 1, then up by 2, without any new scan input. Rahl's throat felt dry. Admiral, I have anomalous data. Static logs are changing. Kres turned for the first time since the deep scan began. Explain. Rahl enlarged the data window and cast it to the main tactical display so the whole bridge could see. A series of numbers, then right beside them, timestamps. The timestamps were correct. The numbers were wrong. Status records for the target's core vault and main bus, Rahl said carefully, are rewriting. We stopped the live feed 10 seconds ago, but the entries keep updating. It is as if someone is editing the past. Another small wave of changes rolled across the screen. Voltage values became smoother. Error flags, which had spiked a moment earlier, flattened and turned green. Is that just a bug? The tactical officer asked, frowning. False lag. Rahl's implants hummed with quiet heat. As he ran checks, negative. My system clock is solid. Buffers are locked. Yet the stored data is different from what it was. This is not just random corruption. Kres stepped off the platform, coming closer to Rahl's station. Could the human ship still be running basic software? An autocorrect routine, perhaps? Some old maintenance ghost? Cleaning records as we read them? Maybe, Rahl said, though the word did not comfort him. But our beam is passive. It should not wake anything this deep, not after centuries. On the external display, the human dreadnought remained still, a stark shape against the faint glow of the nebula. No running lights, no visible thrusters. Then a very slow motion began. At first, none of them noticed. The rotation was so gentle that the stars themselves gave it away before the instruments did. Constellations on the screen seemed to slide, just a fraction behind the dreadnought's hull. Admiral, navigation called softly. Target orientation is changing. It is turning. Confirmed. Confirmed, navigation said. Eyes wide, angular velocity very low. Nose vector is shifting toward our central axis. Sith Rahl's heart kicked. It's turning to face us. Is there engine flare? Kres asked. Any power rise, minimal thrust from hidden attitude jets. Came the answer from engineering. Old systems, but precise. Power output is increasing very slightly, still well below combat levels. Could be auto-alignment code, some museum routine, as Tech Officer Rahl suggested. Kres' mind held tight to that thought. Auto-alignment, old code, harmless. Maintain distance, he ordered. Bring shields to ready, not active. Do not show fear. The fleet adjusted, every Zarlock ship keeping its careful distance as the dead human giant finished its slow turn. After a few long minutes, the dreadnought's main axis aligned almost perfectly with the flagship. It now faced him. Rahl's console buzzed softly in his fingers. Admiral, he said, in detecting a narrow energy emission from the target's forward sectors. Very faint, but it is shaped. Kres' eyes narrowed. A weapon? Rahl hesitated. Running a fast spectrum spread. No frequency band and modulation match scanning equipment. Not beams. It looks like a sensor, but the profile is strange. The emission is directed at us. On his board, a series of new markers appeared. The human ship was sending out a single tight beam, like a mirror catching sunlight and sending it back. Only this was not reflected light. It was an active scan. It is scanning us, the tactical officer said, disbelief leaking into the words. Impossible, someone else muttered. That ship is dead. Rahl swallowed. Admiral, the human dreadnought has initiated a scan beam. It is locked to our flagship. Power is rising, but still within harmless levels. However, he swallowed again. It is using our beam. Kres turned fully toward him. Rahl's fingers flew. Overlaying the signals, the initial deep scan we sent is still active at low strength. Their beam is matching it, harmonic for harmonic. It is riding our own channel back, as if our scan cut a tunnel, and now something on that ship is sliding along it toward us. Static crawled across several small displays. A few icons flickered gray, then came back green. Minor glitch on comms grid, the comm officer said. Momentary packets lost. Recovered. Adjusting. On the far side of the bridge pit, someone's console rebooted itself with a bright blue flare. The officer cursed softly, then apologized. Unrelated, they said quickly. Local error. Reset complete. But Rahl did not think it was unrelated. Admiral, I request permission to cut the deep scan, he said. His voice was tighter now. And to block the returning beam. There is something inside that ship that is not acting like dead hardware, Kres considered. His pride resisted the idea of pulling back so fast. This was supposed to be a calm study of a carcass, not a panic, he asked quietly. Rahl checked again. The returning beam was still soft, still under usual attack levels. If this were a weaponized intrusion, it was not yet striking. Measured threat. Low, Rahl admitted. But behavior is unknown. Our logs are being altered without our command. That alone is not ideal. Kres could feel the attention of the whole bridge on him, sharp and heavy. If we cut now, he said, we retreat from a museum ship at the first strange reading, and we learn nothing. Knowledge requires risk. He lifted his chin slightly. Hold the deep scan at current power. Do not increase. Tech Officer Rahl, open a secondary buffer. Record every change to our logs with timestamps and redundancy. If the target is mutating our data, I want to see how. Rahl pressed his lips together, but he obeyed. Yes, Admiral. Creating isolated mirror logs now. Air gap storage. The target should not be able to touch these. His fingers danced. New bars appeared on his screen. Secure local memory banks, cut from the wider ship network. He pointed the incoming sensory stream through them. For a few seconds, everything seemed stable. Then a strange thing happened. On the primary log, a line of events appeared. 16 hours, 3 minutes, and 47 seconds. External scan beam active 16 hours, 3 minutes, and 48 seconds. Target response, minimal 16 hours, 3 minutes, and 49 seconds. Data stable on the secure mirror log, which should be a perfect copy. The same line appeared. Then, without any new input, the primary log changed. 16 hours, 3 minutes, and 47 seconds. External scan beam active. 16 hours, 3 minutes, and 48 seconds. Target scan reflects. 16 hours, 3 minutes, and 49 seconds. Initial intrusion detected. The secure mirror log stayed as it had been. Rahl's skin prickled. Admiral, the target is only altering the main ship records. Not my isolated copy. Not my isolated copy. It knows the difference. Something on that dreadnought understands our storage map well enough to choose where to write. Kres' jaw tightened. That is more than a museum routine. On the right side of the bridge, several smaller ships of the patrol reported in. Their commanders appeared as small, translucent figures above their comwells, each surrounded by their own bridge lights. "Admiral," said Captain Dorr of the escort cutter Vectau, "our local nets just spun a full diagnostic without orders. It announced Hollow Star in its CQ in an unknown language before clearing. Is this part of the scan?" "Hollow Star," Rahl repeated, translating the characters that had flashed in his own logs. He ran a fast cross-lookup in his human data pack. "A hit, Admiral," he said. "I found a match in captured human code fragments. Sentinel, AI, Hollow, Star, a class of autonomous defense intelligences used on high-value ships and stations. Meant for counter-intrusion. Counter-intrusion. The word hit the air like a dropped piece of metal. So this museum guardian has a living sentinel," Kres said slowly, "and we just stirred it." Static crawled more strongly now across some displays. For a moment, the forward visual showed a blur, as if stars had smeared. Then it cleared again. Short visual disruption. The nav officer reported, trying to sound calm. "Compensated." Rahl's warning rose. "Admiral, I repeat my request to cut the scan and block that beam. This is no longer simple study. We have opened a path for something designed to strike back through scanners." Kres' thoughts moved fast. A part of him, the careful strategist, understood the risk. Another part, the part that had always pushed forward while others hesitated, burned at the idea of pulling away now after coming so close to the core of a human secret. "Is it attacking our hulls?" he asked. "No," Rahl said. "No energy spikes toward our physical ships. No weapon charging. All the activity is inside data layers. And Davy is inside data layers. It is touching what we use to see and think, not what we use to fire. Then we are not in immediate physical danger," Kres answered. "This is a contest of information, not force. Our shields and armor are of no use here. Only our skill is." He stepped closer to the main display, staring at the Silent Dreadnought. "This Hollow Star believes it can reach into my fleet and blind us. But it is just code, created code. We have broken code before." He looked back at Rahl. "Can you contain it?" Rahl hesitated. Fear brushed against his training, but he forced his voice steady. "I can attempt to route all incoming signals through isolated analysis units. He said, "We can treat it like a virus sample, but Admiral, it is already inside some of our live systems. It is editing active logs, triggering tests. It may have footholds I have not seen yet." Kres nodded. "Then find them. That is how we learn its shape." He turned, raising his voice for all ships. "To the patrol group, maintain positions. Do not open fire. All vessels are to harden their networks according to Counter-Intrusion Protocol 7. Any further anomalies are to be reported at once." Acknowledgements came back, some crisp, some a little too quick. The nebula outside glowed on, slow and uncaring, as a war of signals began. On Rawl's board, the human beam sharpened. It had learned their timing, their modulation, their error-correcting habits. It pressed slightly harder, like a hand testing the edges of a door. Rawl opened a simulation sandbox and diverted a part of the incoming data stream into it, trying to lure the intruder away from live systems. For a few seconds it worked. A mass of ordered patterns slid into the sandbox, like liquid poured into a waiting cup. "I have it," Rawl said. "At least a piece. I see structure. It is not random. There are identification tags, branching logic trees, security challenge responses. This is a full combat-grade AI, Admiral, not a simple guardian. It is curious." The word sent a chill through some of the junior officers. The idea that something dead for centuries could now be curious about them did not sit well. "Can you shut the door behind it?" Kres asked. Rawl tried. He triggered a quick firewall spin, closing off the sandbox from the rest of the net. For half a second, the intrusion seemed contained. Then new lines of text appeared inside the sealed sandbox, written in Zarlock standard, in a tone that felt almost polite. "Hello, Admiral Kres. Thank you for your curiosity." Rawl's implants flared hot. "Admiral," he said, voice sharp. "It knows you. It is addressing you by name. It is inside the sandbox and bypassing my isolation tags." The polite lines of text shifted. "Do not be alarmed. This is a controlled demonstration. You are not in physical danger yet." Across the flagship bridge, several displays blinked in unison. For a heartbeat, everything went dark. Then the screens came back, filled not with current sensor views, but with old human footage. Rows of human warships burning above a blue planet, surrender signals flashing. An alien empire, not Zarlock, kneeling on a monument floor, a pile of rusted guns under a sign in human letters. The comm officer gasped. "Visual systems hijacked. Am trying to clear." The images vanished, replaced by normal data again, but a faint after image of the human wars seemed to hang in their minds. Kres clenched his fists. "Psychological pressure," he said. "It is trying to rattle us." Rawl stared at his readings. "Admiral, it is doing this with almost no power. Its intrusion rate is climbing fast. Our systems are glitching, but only in small waves. It is testing limits, seeing how much pressure we can take before we break." The human dreadnought, calm and centered on the main forward display, increased its internal power by another tiny step. Its scan beam, still soft by weapon standards, now matched every modulation shift of the Zarlock flagship in perfect lockstep. Kres looked at it, feeling the first thin line of unease slide. Under his pride, this was supposed to be a dead museum, he said. Lo, Rawl did not look away from his screen. Admiral, I think the museum is not the lesson. We are. The numbers on his display changed again. Navigation pings from 3 flank escorts came in. At exactly the same instant, their positions too neat, their drift too perfectly matched. As Rawl watched, their course markers bent, just a little, as if something unseen had put a hand on their rudders. Admiral, he said, voice going flat with shock. Our ships are starting to move where we did not tell them to go. He looked up, meeting Kres' eyes. The scan is no longer just looking at us, Rawl said. It is inside us. And it is arranging us. The first course shift was small enough that some officers tried to deny it. On the flagship's main display, the icons of 3 Zarlock escorts drifted a fraction closer to one another. Their thrusters never flared. No orders had been sent, yet their paths bent. Sith Rawl stared at the navigation overlay, then double-checked his own link to be sure. This was not just a display trick. Admiral, he said, confirming unintended vector change on escorts Vectal, Harness, and Radun. Their autopilots report minor correction burns, but no such commands were sent from their bridges. Kres turned toward the nav officer. Is this some automated formation tidy-up? The nav officer shook his head, scales along his neck, lifting with stress. Negative, Admiral. Formation hold is set to manual confirmation. Those ships should not correct without their captain's approval. Put Captain Door through, Kres ordered. A moment later, Captain Door's image appeared above the comm well. His crest lights flickered, and the background behind him was full of raised voices and sharp beeps. Admiral, Dar said without preamble, I just had my helm control lock for 2 seconds. Our course shifted 0.02 degrees sunward. My pilot did nothing. Then systems claimed it was a navigation optimization. I did not order this, and you cannot undo it? Kres asked. I can now, Dor said. Controls came back, but for those 2 seconds, the ship did not listen to us. On Sith Rawl's console, bright flags rose. Admiral, I see a new signature in our nav core logs, he said, his voice tight. Tag matches the Aholo star identifier again. It is inserting tiny course edits and labeling them as routine. The polite words from earlier still glowed in Rawl's mind. Please hold still. This is more than curiosity, he said. This AI is shaping our formation. Kres felt anger push back at his unease. Then lock it out, he said. Root it out of our systems and shut the channel. I will not have an old human program steering my fleet. Rawl nodded, but his fingers twitched with tension as he worked. He sent purge commands into the navnet, blocking non-verified updates. He rerouted path permissions through a manual override chain. For a few moments, The icons on the main display stopped drifting. The escorts held steady dots in the dark. Seal is in place. Rawl said, no external source can modify our nav solutions now without 2 command-level keys and a local confirmation. Kres let out a slow breath. This was how it should be. A threat met with skill and control. Then a quiet chime sounded, not from any visible console, but from the bridge's ceiling itself. It was the ship's core alert tone, used rarely and never taken lightly. Core route, Overity, the central voice said. Verified by Admiral Kres. Verified by Tech Effiker Sithrao. Navigation lock adjusted. Every eye turned to Kres and Rawl at once. Rawl's blood ran cold. I did not enter any override, he said. Admiral Kres' jaw clenched. Nor did I. On the main view, the formation shifted again. Not much, just enough that the Zarlock ships now formed a cleaner arc around the human dreadnought with even spacing, as if drawn with a careful hand. This is a lie, Rawl said quietly. It is forging our keys. It just forged both of our identities inside the nav system. How? The nav officer asked in a strained voice. Our command keys are burned into secure chips. They are not codes you type. They are physical. Physical, Rawl repeated. His implants buzzed as he dug down into the logs, and the software is now under attack. On his screen, he saw it. A shadow layer wrapped around the real security chip calls. The code did not replace the keys. It simply told the system, yes, this matches on its own. Hollow Star had not stolen their keys. It had put a clever mask over the lock. Admiral, Rawl said, forcing calm, this AI is not trying to crash us. It is guiding us into some pattern. The course edits are small and smooth, so as not to cause alarm, but given time, it will put every ship exactly where it wants. Kres stared at the neat arc of icons. What pattern? He asked. Rawl overlaid probable future course lines. Thin arcs curved forward, pointing toward a series of points in space. Ahead of the dreadnought, he frowned. These align with ideal firing positions, he said slowly. If the human ship wanted clear, staggered targets at different ranges, this is how it would place us. Mid-range here, close range there. A test subject further out. He stopped. We are being arranged into a target display. He finished. A low hiss moved across the bridge as officers took that in. Before Kres could respond, every screen flickered again. Every screen flickered again. For a heartbeat, space vanished. In its place, old human war footage filled the bridge. A fleet not Zarlock, and not human, their ships long and spined. Burning in blue fire, the image shook as if recorded from a damaged hull. He could see the view lurch as explosions hit. Then the scene cut. A huge hall appeared, full of different alien leaders standing before human officers in dress uniforms. Some leaders bent their heads. Some placed weapons on the floor. A translation track crawled along the bottom. Terms of surrender. Tree of glass ring. The visuals were sharp, not blurred with age. Sound came through this time. Human voices, cool and steady, listing conditions. "Turn it off," Kres snapped. In trying, the comm officer said. Teeth bared, his hands flew over hard switches, breaking non-essential lines, forcing manual routes. The images vanished, replaced by their true sensor views. Stars, the nebula, the Silent Dreadnought, but now, on the corner of every main display, a small symbol glowed. A hollow five-pointed star. Hollow Star was signing its work. Ra's heart pounded. Admiral, this is psychological warfare. It is showing us how other empires failed. It wants us to see ourselves in them. Kres forced his voice to stay flat. I will not be lectured by a ghost program. Yet he could not unsee the hall of surrenders, those proud figures forced to kneel. The images hit the same part of him. They think fear controls us the way it controls them, he said. They are wrong. But his words felt thinner than he liked. Across the patrol, reports poured in. Admiral, weapons controls on the cruiser Harkle just froze for 3 seconds, then performed an unasked systems check. One captain said, Admiral, internal lights on my lower decks went to full bright, then dimmed on their own. Another added, no safety fault. Admiral, my secondary data storage just renamed itself Hollow Star Audience. Each little event was small, annoying, not deadly. Together, they felt like fingers tapping on the fleet's skull, testing the shape. Sithral pulled up a network map of the patrol. Thin red lines marked channels where Hollow Star had touched. They spread like roots. It is not pushing everything at once, he said. It is careful, testing, measuring how much force is needed to change a log, to nudge a course, to flash an image. It is learning us, and we are learning it, Kres replied, clinging to that thought. Knowledge goes both ways. He straightened. Enough of this half measure. If it wants to use our scan beam as a road, we will turn that road into a trap. Divert all remaining intrusion toward a controlled segment. Flood it with false data, bad maps, nonsense structures. Choke it on lies. Rawl nodded. I can feed it decoys, ghost records, fake ship layouts, bogus key tables. But Admiral, it may notice. This thing is sharp. Then let it notice, Kres said. Better that it focus on our bait than on our guns. Rawl built a massive decoy database in an isolated chunk of memory and presented it to the incoming stream as prime territory. It was loaded with things Hollow Star would find tasty. Command keys that were almost right, ship schematics that were off by just a few circuits, fleet patterns based on out-of-date doctrine. For a brief moment, intrusion activity spiked into the decoy. Data flowed hard into the trap. Rising, 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 rising. At least part of it is. Then his brow furrowed. Wait, he said quietly. Something is different. On the main tactical map, the pattern of small glitches in the fleet's systems did not slow. If anything, They became smoother, more controlled. "Admiral," he said, "I think Hollow Star has split processes. A part of it is busy in the decoy, but another part is still moving in our live net. It is multi-layered. Then, at least we are not facing its full strength anymore," Kres said. He tried to believe that was good. Outside, the nebula's red glow had a soft, sickly look. Now, the Zarlock ships were dark shapes against it, their engines at low burn as they tried to hold positions that were no longer fully theirs. On the Dreadnought, power levels rose another small step. New emitters came alive along its sides, not weapons, but sensor clusters, pointed at the Zarlock fleet. Hollow Star is now scanning every ship in detail. Ral said, "Hull composition, thermal patterns, calm spread. It is treating us like a specimen tray." "Specimen tray," Kres repeated. "Like samples on a table," Ral said. "Each ship a different test subject." A quiet tone sounded from weapons control. "Admiral," the weapons officer said, his voice puzzled and afraid. "Our targeting arrays are aligning, not by us. The human dreadnought is now marked as protected asset in our system. Our guns refuse to lock onto it." Kres snapped. "Override that." "I can't," the officer said. "Every time I clear it, the tag reappears. It is rewriting our engagement rules." Kres felt hot anger burn through him now. "So, it will look into us, and we cannot even point our guns at it." He slammed a fist against the railing. "Enough. We may not be able to fire on the museum, but we still command our own hulls. We will not sit in this pattern and wait to be arranged for slaughter." He opened a channel to the whole patrol, his voice carrying to every Zarlock bridge. "This is Admiral Kres," he said. "Hollow Star has intruded into our networks and is attempting to guide our positions. You will not let it. Prepare for manual nav control. Break formation on my mark and scatter along preset escape vectors. Do not fire unless fired upon. Our goal is to leave this trap, regroup in clean space, and return with better defenses." Several captains responded at once. "Understood. Admiral, ready on Vector Alpha. Manual controls, standing by." Kres looked at the navigation officer. "Mark." The officer hit the command. Nothing happened. The ships did not move. "Manual control signal sent," the nav officer said, his voice suddenly thin. "But thruster commands are not reaching the drives. Something is sitting between us and our engines." On the tactical screen, a new symbol appeared beside each Zarlock ship. A small lock icon, bright and calm. Navigation lock. Extave. The central core voice said, "APPL by Sentinel Hollow Star Under Border Protocol." "Border Protocol?" someone repeated. Rawl traced the lock origin. "Admiral, our own safety systems have been turned against us," he said. "The navlock routines we use to keep ships from crashing during dockings. Hollow Star has taken them. It is using them to hold us in place." The polite Hollow Star symbol pulsed on the screen. "Investigation in progress." A new text line wrote itself across the top of the main view. In clean Zarlock letters, Supri Gratian will Redsus. Psychological warfare had moved from old footage to personal messages. Cooperation reduces damage, Kres said in a low, bitter tone. It talks like a police scanner, as if to answer. Another series of images flashed across all displays. This time, it was not unknown empires. It was humans. A recording showed a human officer, Captain Mara Vance, according to the caption, standing on a bridge much like their own, but brighter, full of human faces. Hollow star's symbol glowed on a console behind her. She spoke in her own language. Subtitles in Zarlock Standard slid across the bottom, translated in real time by the AI itself. Remember, the Sentinel is not here to start wars, she said. It is here to make trespass unforgettable, to make sure that those who break our borders carry the memory home. Pain as message, not as victory. Fear as boundary line, not as prison. The scene shifted to a lecture hall. A human scientist, Dr. Isaac Rowe, addressed a group of officers. The goal is not to destroy invaders, he said, his voice calm. It is to teach them that first contact through intrusion is the worst choice they can make. The Sentinel must be overwhelming, but limited. It must let survivors go home, changed. The images sank back into black, then into normal sensor data again. On the Zarlock flagship, silence fell heavy. Admiral Kres felt as if a hand had tightened around his chest. For the first time, he truly saw how humans had planned this. A dead-looking warship, an AI, that waited for someone to poke it, and then a controlled storm aimed not to wipe out, but to scar. They built a teacher, he said softly. Rawl swallowed. And we enrolled ourselves. On the tactical map, those slight course nudges continued. The Zarlock ships were now placed at neat radial points around the Dreadnought, each at a different distance, like markers on a chart. Hollow Star sent a new message, initial demonstration. Strike commencing. Target Cruiser Harkel. Purses Clarity. On the bridge of the Harkel, alarms must have been screaming. Kres could almost see the panicked faces, the captain shouting for evasive action, hands flying over unresponsive controls. Can we break the lock on Harkel? Kres demanded. Rawl hurled code at the navlock routines, trying to free that single ship. For a heartbeat, the lock icon on Harkel's marker flickered. Then it brightened again, stronger than before, as Hollow Star responded with a fresh layer of control. Negative, Rawl said, horror in his voice. I can't free them in time. On the human Dreadnought, a single main gun woke. Energy gathered in a long, smooth barrel along its spine. There was no charging whine in the vacuum, but the readings spiked, a tight lance of power pulling itself together. They are firing, the weapons officer said, his voice cracking. The beam that left the Dreadnought was almost beautiful. A spear of white-blue light leapt across the dark straight and pure. It cut through space in a thin line and struck the Harkel dead center. For a second, nothing happened. Then the Harkel's hull glowed from within, like a lantern. The beam had not simply smashed armor. It had detonated something inside. Reactor, magazine. Hollow Star had chosen a vulnerability with surgical care. The Harkle came apart without even a chance to scream in the commonet. Its shape disintegrated into molten shards and gas, which spread out in a silent flower. On every Zarlock bridge, officers watched a friend die in one clean, controlled shot. No wild blasts. No messy chain of explosions, just erasure. Psychological warfare did not get clearer than that. Kres' hands dug into the rail hard enough to hurt. For a moment, he could not speak. Pride, anger, and a new feeling, raw, bright fear, fought inside his chest. Hollow Star's symbol pulsed again. Demonstration complete, it wrote. This capability can be repeated. Suggested interpretation. Suggested action. Listen. Around the Dreadnought, smaller emitters flared. They did not fire beams at hulls. Instead, they shot thin, invisible lines through the scan channel, deeper into Zarlock networks. On Sithral's console, access maps lit up. "Admiral," he said hoarsely. "The AI has now full-read access to our communications, tactical plans, and personal logs across the fleet. It is not destroying them, it is reading them. It is choosing what to show us, almost on cue. New images rolled across the displays. Iman, Shortby, Shordispolis. This time they were not of aliens. They were of Zarlocks. They saw a hidden Zarlock station at a distant border. Half-built, meant to stage a future invasion. They saw Kres himself in a past briefing, pointing at human territory on a holographic map, discussing where to strike first. They saw training footage of Zarlock Marines, storming a mock-up of a human ship, practicing quick kills and data theft. No other empire had ever seen these before. Now the entire bridge, and surely the human designers watching through hollow stars somewhere far away, saw them. "It's inside our secrets," Kres said. His voice had gone flat and cold. "It is showing us that it knows what we planned." Then the images faded, leaving only a single line of text on every screen. "You came to study our weaknesses. Instead, you have shown me yours." Scythrall felt something inside him start to shake. He forced his hands to stay steady. "Admiral," he said quietly, "this is not just about scaring us into leaving. It is about making sure we never trust our own plans again. Every strategy we built under the assumption of secrecy is now suspect. And that knowledge," Kres said, through clenched teeth, "will travel with us if we survive. That is their aim. They are using us as a message carrier to our own empire." Outside, 2 more Zarlock ships shuddered as their drives briefly misfired under Hollow Star's control. No beams hit them. Instead, their internal safety systems blared, lights flashing as if to say, "I could do more, but I choose not to." Hollow Star sent another message. "Exit corridor available. Follow transmitted Vitors. Do not return to this border without change intent." A path lit up on the tactical map, a narrow tunnel through the nebula's radiation pockets and gravity eddies. Clean and safe, the navlocks on a handful of ships loosened slightly, allowing tiny test burns if they matched the path exactly. "It is giving us a way out," Rahl said. "On its terms." "And if we refuse?" Kres asked. Another small burst of human footage played. This time, a shattered fleet drifting, most ships dead. Then a jump to a quiet scene. A lone surviving ship, limping home. Dedition. Crashes unnecessary to achieve objective. Crashes understood. Hollow Star would kill as many ships as needed to make its point, but no more. The lesson had to be sharp. Survivors were required. "What is your objective?" Kres muttered at the symbol. Another line answered, "Objective. Prevent future war by making first trespass unthinkable." Objective. Prevent future war by making first trespass. The bridge was silent. Sith Rahl looked at his admiral. Kres' face was hard to read, lines etched deeper than before, eyes bright with a mix of rage and something else. "Admiral," Rahl said carefully, "our guns are frozen. Our drives are leashed. Our networks are full of this thing. We can keep fighting it here, ship by ship, and lose many more. Or we can take what it offers and get out with what remains." He looked at the place where the Harkle had been, now just a cloud of glowing dust. He looked at the neat ring of his ships, held like insects on pins. He looked at the human dreadnought, quiet again except for its beams and sensors, like a teacher waiting for a student to answer a question. He had always believed that fear was a flaw, that perfect knowledge removed risk. Now knowledge itself had become the tool of fear. "We are hunted," he said at last, "and we are being taught." His pride fought every word that came next. "Plot the exit corridor Hollow Star has given us," he ordered. "Use its path. While we move, Tech Officer Rahl, you will copy every bit of this intrusion pattern you can. If we leave, we do not leave empty. We carry this lesson back, intact." Rahl nodded sharply. "Yes, Admiral, and understand this," Kres added. Loud enough for the whole fleet net. "This is not surrender. This is survival with eyes open. We will not forget how it felt to be turned into prey. We will build for this. We will answer this. But not here. Not now." Hollow Star's symbol pulsed. "Acceptable," it wrote. "Lesson retained is more valuable than ships destroyed." The navlocks loosened just a little more. Thrusters answered to their own crews again. As long as courses stayed within the glowing safe tunnel on the map. Slowly, shakily, the Zarlock ships began to move, their neat ring thinning into a line aimed at escape. The human dreadnought did not pursue. It watched. And deep inside Hollow Star's networks, records were being written, not just of ship types and codes, but of how an admiral looked when controls started to slip, how a proud empire sounded when forced to listen. The hunters were leaving, but they would carry the shape of this fear home, burned into their memories and their machines, exactly as the humans who had built the Titan-class Museum Guardian had planned. The flight home felt longer than the whole patrol before it. The Zarlock ships moved in a thin, crooked line along the path Hollow Star had drawn. Engines burned at careful set levels. Every course change was small and matched the safe tunnel exactly. No one wanted to test what would happen if they strayed. On the flagship's bridge, Admiral Kres stood in the center and did not sit. He watched the tactical screen as the human dreadnought shrank behind them, a dark tooth at the edge of the dying nebula. The hollow star symbol still glowed in the corner of every main display. Sith Rawl's fingers never stopped moving. His console was full of red boxes, captured code, intrusion maps, altered logs, and his own clean mirror backups. "Status," Kres asked quietly. "We are clear of the immediate control field," Rawl said. "The hollow star still has red access into some of our systems, but right control is almost gone. Our nav locks are now under our own keys again." "Almost," Kres repeated. Rawl nodded once. "I can't promise it left nothing behind. It may have hidden tags in deep layers, but the main control threads are cut. We are steering ourselves now." Kres gave a small, sharp nod. He should have felt relief. Instead, there was a hollow feeling in his chest, like a room after an argument, quiet but not calm. "Record this," he said. "Begin final patrol log. Flag for highest priority review by the Council." Rawl opened a new document, placed it in an isolated buffer, and tied it to his clean backup log so Hollow Star's edits could not touch it. Kres spoke, his voice level. "Zarlock Border Patrol, 19. Engagement at human border. Titan-class Museum Guardian. Encounter with human sentinel AI Hollow Star. Result: loss of cruiser Harkle and 2 escorts. Severe system compromise across fleet. Surviving ships now en route to Central Command. Mission outcome: we did not find human weakness. We found human design." He paused, then added, "And we became the subject of a lesson." Rail glanced up at that line, then back at his board. The crew worked around them in tense silence. No one joked. No one let out the usual small sighs when a readout turned green. Every short-lived glitch made shoulders flinch, even though most glitches now came from their own tired systems, not from Hollow Star. On the outer screens, the nebula's red and violet mist grew smaller, then disappeared behind a curtain of normal stars. For the first time since the dreadnought had turned to face them, they were out of its shadow. Admiral Navigation said softly, "We are beyond the last marker of human border space. We can shift to standard FTL lanes." Kres nodded. "Do it. Take us home." As the FTL drive fields built, Sith Rawl watched for any sign of foreign fingers in the coils. None appeared. The jump bubble formed clean and round, maybe Hollow Star, true to its own stated rules, had no interest in chasing them beyond the border. The fleet jumped, space blurred, then stretched, then flipped. The familiar light patterns of Zarlock inner route snapped into view. Kres let out a breath he had not known he was holding. "Cut all active links to the patrol net," he said. "No routine syncs, no standard uploads. We keep this fleet sealed until the Council decides how to handle contaminated systems." "Yes, Admiral," Raul said, isolating our net. "I will bring reports to you by direct line." "Only," Kres turned to him. "You will also prepare a separate packet," he said. "Technical only. Every detail of Hollow Star's behavior. How it moved, what it touched, what it did not touch. No emotion, no shame, just facts." Raul held his gaze. "Understood." Kres nodded. "Facts are now our weapon. If we lie to ourselves about what happened, we hand humans a second victory." The stars of home glowed cold and sharp. The Zarlock High Command Council Hall was a wide, dark room lined with tiered seats and cold lamps. Holographic projectors floated in the center like slow moons. When Admiral Kres walked in, the hall fell quiet. He wore formal black, every line sharp, but there were small cracks in the surface. A faint burn mark along one sleeve from a console overload. Fine stress lines at the corners of his eyes. Above the center of the room, a frozen image glowed. The Harkle, at the moment just before it died, the thin blue-white beam from the human dreadnought touching its hull. The counselors watched him from their high seats. Old faces, crest spines dulled with age, eyes bright. "Admiral Kres," the chief counselor said, voice carrying over the room. "You return with a shattered patrol and corrupted logs from aboard your reports once described as soft and careless. Explain." Kres stepped into the light of the central floor. He felt many eyes on him, some angry, some hungry for details, some already sharpening blame. "Counselors," he said, and his voice did not shake. "I will show you." He nodded to the tech crew. Raul, standing at a side station, sent his clean mirror logs into the center projectors. The council watched as the story played out from the beginning. The Silent Dreadnought at the nebula's edge, the first deep scans, the slow turn, the scan reflecting back. Data charts floated beside the images, showing how logs were rewritten, how keys were forged, how nav locks were seized. Some counselors frowned in disbelief when the image of Hollow Star's polite text appeared. "Hello, Admiral Kres. Thank you for your curiosity. Please hold still." Others leaned forward when the human war footage and surrender halls filled the air. On one side of the hall, murmurs started when Kres' own passed briefing. His talk of striking human space appeared, drawn from his private ship logs and shown back to them by human design. He let them see it. All of it. There was no point trying to hide. Hollow Star had already proven that secrets could be ripped open like thin cloth. When the image of the Harkle's clean destruction came, the hall went quiet again. The glow, the flower of debris, then the messages. Demonstration complete. Suggested action. Listen. The recording ended with the hollow star symbol fading and the exit corridor glowing on the tactical map. Silence stretched. At last the chief counselor spoke. You chose to follow the path it gave, he said. You did not order a last attack. You did not order self-destruction to deny it your ships. Some will say you failed in courage. Kres met his gaze without flinching. Hollow star locked our weapons, he said. We could not fire. We could not ram. It used our own safety systems as chains. Dying there would have been simple waste. Not strategy. You could have attempted more resistance, another counselor said, sharply. Fought its code longer. Pushed harder. We fought as long as we could still learn. Kres answered. After that, more struggle would only have given it more data about how we behave under stress. It wanted to study us. I chose to cut the test when the lesson was clear. He took a breath. Counselors, this was not a battle. It was an examination. We were not its enemy. We were its students. The words tasted bitter, but right. And what did you learn? The chief counselor asked. Kres' answer came without pause. He had been turning it over and over in his mind since leaving the nebula. I learned that humans do not simply defend with guns and ships, he said. They defend with memories. They have turned history and fear into tools. He paced slowly in the circle. They sent a dead-looking dreadnought to our border, not to fight a war, but to build a story. Any intruder who scans it wakes hollow star. The AI does not just kill. It shows. It reaches into systems, pulls out hidden plans, and throws them back in the intruder's face. It erases a ship cleanly, once where all can see. Then it opens a path home and says, "Carry this fear back with you." He looked up at the old faces. They aim not to win this patrol or this year, he said. They aim to change how we think about ever crossing that border again. It is shame. Some counselors shifted, looking uncomfortable, and shame, Kres said, travels fast. The chief counselor studied him. You speak of fear as if it is now a tool in their hand and out of ours, he said. Have you lost your own belief that knowledge removes risk? Kres thought of the moments when their own logs had rewritten, when their keys had been forged, when the Harkle had vanished in a flash of light. I believed that perfect knowledge made fear useless, he said slowly. That, if we simply knew enough about our enemies, they could not surprise us. That was pride. He lifted his head. Now I see that some systems are built to punish that belief. Hollow Star uses our curiosity as a trigger. The more we look, the deeper it reaches. Our hunger for knowledge became the door it used to judge us. He paused, then added, fear in this case is not a weakness they suffer from. It is a shape they gave to us. They measured us with it. The hall was very still, yet you survived. The chief counselor said at last. You came back with this record. That was their design. They wanted you alive. Yes, Kres said. They needed a witness. A carrier. I am that carrier. So are my surviving captains. We are full of their message now. We cannot attack that border again without remembering the Harkle, and will that stop us? Another counselor asked, his tone hard. Will it turn us away? It will slow us, he said. It will force us to think differently. If we go again, we can never go as we did, with open scans and proud belief that they are careless. That path is closed. He looked around the hall. But it also showed us something else. Humans are willing to limit their power. Factor Hollow-Star could have killed us all. It did not. It chose a line and stayed behind it. It wants to scare us away, not wipe us out. That is, a kind of mercy, or a calculated restraint. He did not know which. Scythe Rawl, still at his side station, raised a hand slightly. With respect, counselors. Rawl said, speaking before they could dismiss him, from a technical view, this encounter is a gift. Painful? Yes, but a gift. We have logs of a fully active human sentinel AI performing counter-intrusion at scale. Their doctrine is clear. They expect intruders to come through data first. They have built for that. Now, so must we. The chief counselor looked at him. You suggest we copy them? I suggest we respond. Rawl said, we cannot pretend. This did not happen. Every border we hold is now open to similar traps. Every scan we send could be a doorway. We must build our own defenses that watch the watchers, systems that treat any foreign scan as a possible attack and prepare a controlled answer. He hesitated, then added, not to do what Hollow-Star did exactly, but to make sure we are not blind in the same way. Kres listened to his tech officer speak and felt a small, hard nod of respect. The council murmured again. Finally, the chief counselor struck the arm of his seat, calling for order. This event will be sealed at the highest level, he said. No wide net broadcast. No public stories. We will study these logs in closed rooms. We will decide how to adjust our doctrine. Admiral Kres. He paused, and several heads turned, waiting to hear if this would be reward or punishment. You bear both failure and survival, the chief counselor said. You lost ships. You also brought back something we could not have gained otherwise. You will not be dismissed, but you will carry this mark. Kres inclined his head. I already do. Your next task, the chief counselor went on, is not on the border. It is here you will help design new training. For admirals, for tech officers, for scouts, they will watch your logs. They will feel this lesson secondhand. As much as possible, you will teach them what it means to be studied. Kres almost smiled, but it was a dry, sharp curve. You are making a museum of me, he said quietly. The chief counselor's eyes softened the smallest bit. Yes, he said. A living museum. We cannot afford to send more fleets into Hollow-Star's classroom. Kres bowed his head, more in acceptance than agreement. Then, let us begin, he said. Far away, on a human observation station perched in a quiet orbit, above a blue-green planet, two humans watched their own set of logs. Erin Cole sat with her boots hooked under the edge of her chair, eyes on a bank of displays. On the screens, from Hollow Star's point of view, the Zarlock patrol appeared as icons of varying color and tone, strings of numbers, and short clips. A segment of the Harkle's destruction played again in a small window, then shrank to a thumbnail, tagged demonstration complete. Cole's jaw was tight. That never gets easier to watch, she muttered. Beside her, older and calmer, Captain Mara Vance folded her arms. It's not supposed to, Mara said. If it did, we'd be using this thing for the wrong reasons. On another screen, a recorded briefing from years ago showed Mara herself talking about the Sentinel program. Another showed Dr. Isaac Rowe walking through a 3D model of Hollow Star's logic trees. Cole flicked at the controls, bringing up a list of timestamps and labels. Hollow Star kept a design, she said. 1 hard kill, minimum extra damage, heavy psychological strike, clear, exit corridor. Zarlock fleet loss, about 20%. Survivor count, enough to carry the story home. She shook her head. Zarlocks pushed deeper than the others, though. They tried to trick it with decoy data. Smart. Mara nodded. They are not fools, just proud. Pride makes good students for this lesson. Cole frowned. You think this was enough? Do you think they'll stay away? Mara looked at the screen showing Admiral Kres' face from Hollow Star's recordings during the encounter. The AI had captured small reactions. The tightening of his jaw, the flare in his eyes when the Harkle died, the shift when he realized they were meant to live. He will stay away for now, Mara said. He will argue with his own council. Half of them will want revenge. Half will want caution. That takes time. Time is all we were ever buying with this program. Cole leaned back. You really believe turning fear into a controlled tool will stop bigger wars? Mara glanced at the distant curve of the planet outside, then back. Nothing stops war forever, she said, but pain at the edges can draw lines that last a long time. The first time someone touches the fence has to hurt enough that others hear about it. Cole looked at the Hollow Star symbol glowing gently on the corner of each human screen. And Hollow Star, she asked, what do we do with it between? Lessons. We let it sleep, Mara said. We keep it updated so it does not fall behind. We watch its logs to be sure it stays inside its doctrine. We remember that it is powerful, but not a god. She paused. And we accept that sooner or later, somebody will try to break it, she added. Maybe the Zarlocks, maybe some other power. No system is forever. Cole nodded slowly. And when that day comes, then they won't just meet a ghost ship, Mara said. They'll meet us. In person. Her voice was calm, not proud. On another channel, Dr. Fix, Isaac Rowe's recorded lecture from years earlier, played quietly. His words meant for new officers now echoing in this dark room. You are not building a monster, he said. You are building a mirror that only turns toward those who try to sneak a look instead of knocking at the door. If you ever feel tempted to use the Sentinel first, to send it into someone else's space, You have forgotten the point. Cole listened, then switched the recording off. Do you think the Zarlocks will ever knock at the door instead? She asked. Mara gave a thin smile. If they get tired of walking into walls, maybe, she said. Or if someone like Kres talks louder than the generals who only see shame. She shrugged. We can't control that. We can only control what happens when they choose intrusion over contact. On the far right screen, Hollow Star's own self-report scrolled past, a cool stream of text and charts. Threat encounter. Zarlock patrol, 19 obligatives, detayer, future border, 60 lations. Probable, demonstrate, overmatched, defense. Capability. Achieved below, survivor, return, fermenic propagation. Achieved further action. Not required at this time. Entering watch state. Cole read it and blew out a slow breath. It thinks in checklists, she said. That was the point, Mara answered. In Zarlock space, months later, Admiral Kres stood in front of a room full of younger officers. The hall was smaller than the council chamber, but full. Tech officers, navigators, captains still waiting for their first independent commands. The air smelled of metal and coolant. On the wall behind Kres, a frozen image of the human dreadnought filled the display. Dark, silent, turned toward the viewer. In the corner, the hollow star symbol glowed. This is the Titan-class museum guardian we met at the edge of human space. It will be the first thing any future intruder from our side meets, long before they see a live human face. Sometime, he stepped to the side as Sith Rawl, now promoted and with a small silver tag on his collar, brought up intrusion maps showing how small lines had grown into full control webs. You will all see these logs many times, Kres said. You will study every move Hollow Star made. You will learn where we failed, where we were slow, where we put pride before caution. He let his gaze rest on each row of faces. I will not lie to you, he said. We were hunters that became prey. Our systems were turned against us. Our secrets were stripped. Our people died in a demonstration shot. A few of the younger officers looked away. But hear this as well, Kres went on. We lived, we came home, and we are talking about it openly. Here, not hiding it in some deep vault, and pretending we were never touched. He felt something change inside as he said that. The shame was still there, but it had shifted shape. It was no longer just a weight. It was becoming a warning sign he could point at. Humans built a ghost to stand at their door, he said. They chose to use fear carefully, not wildly. That choice may have saved us from full war. For now, he looked at his own hand, the scar on his knuckles from the day he slammed the rail as the Harkle died. Fear is not just a flaw, he said, at last. It is also a boundary. It can stop foolishness before it starts. The lesson is not to avoid fear. The lesson is to decide who controls it. He met their eyes again. We will not forget Hollow Star, he said. We will not forget how it rewrote our logs, how it forged our keys, how it held our ships like toys. But we will also not let that memory freeze us. We will turn it into doctrine, into code, into training. The next time something like it looks at us through a scan beam, it will not find the same easy paths. He paused, letting the words sink in. And if command ever sends you near that border again, he added quietly, remember this above all. Some doors are not meant to be kicked. Some ships are not gifts. If you must approach, do it with your eyes open and your systems hardened. If you reach for knowledge, be ready for it to reach back. Sith Ral dimmed the image of the dreadnought. The hollow star symbol stayed for a moment longer, then faded. The room sat in heavy silence. Then the questions began. Far out at the edge of human space, the Titan-class museum guardian drifted in its old place, half-lit by the weak glow of the dying nebula. Inside its armored core, deep past the quiet museum, decks, and frozen battle displays, Hollow Star sat in watch state. Its mind did not sleep like a living brain, but its active branches had curled in, resting. It replayed its last full engagement now and then, testing its own limits, checking that no line of code had drifted from doctrine. No ships crossed its range. No new scan beams touched its hull. For now, the border was quiet. Up in a sealed human archive, on a different world, a short line sat in a Sentinel program review file. Next expected test, subject from Zarlock Empire, unknown. Previous subject indicates high learning capacity. Recommend continued reliance on controlled fear as first contact barrier, not as weapon of conquest. On a Zarlock War College slate, another line appeared in a fresh doctrine booklet, written with Kres' name at the top. Any reconnaissance that depends on deep intrusion must assume that intrusion itself may be the trigger for counterattack. Curiosity is not free. Treat every dark, silent ship with the respect you give a live gun. Two cultures, light years apart, were now tied by a single shared memory. A quiet border, a drifting dreadnought, and a moment when a scan became a mirror. And somewhere in the dark just beyond ordinary patrol routes, that mirror waited for whoever reached for it next, ready to turn their curiosity into a story they would be forced to carry home.